Let's just focus on lines for now, right? And in this case, we're talking about the linear function. So we're going to be talking about drawing straight lines, also known as linear functions. Okay, so I'm going to write down what are some prerequisites for this lesson. These are things that I assume you know already or have sufficient exposure to, right? I take it that you know what is the Cartesian plane. Cartesian plane. I also assume that you know how to plot and read points on the Cartesian plane. Okay, so the Cartesian plane, you should know, it consists of 4 quadrants separated by the x and y axes. It looks something like this. This is the first quadrant, quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. And this is quadrant 4. Okay. You should be able to read where the x is positive. This is the positive x side. This is the positive y side. That's negative x, negative y. And I expect you to be able to read points. For example, you should be able to tell me that's a negative, say that's negative 2, and possibly positive 1. Okay, and that should be its coordinates. Okay, so that's prerequisites for this lesson, things that you should know about the Cartesian plane and also plotting and reading points on a Cartesian plane. Okay, so let us go into how we're going to do this lesson. I'm going to leave you with a task. It's an investigation. Okay, I'm going to give you the standard form of a straight line. And the standard form of a straight line is y is equal to ax. Sometimes you may see it as y equals mx. Now I'm going to ask you to investigate the effect of a when we plot this line using different values of a. So I want you to look at a equals 1, a equals 2, a equals 3, a equals 5, and then possibly also a equals 10. Okay, and what does that look like? That's going to be plot the graph of y equals 1x, y equals 2x, y equals 3x, y equals 5x, and also y equals 10x. And how do I want you to plot it? I want you to search online for Desmos, graphing calculator, or any other online graphing calculator. So let's just fix this PH and IC over here. Graphing calculator. Okay, so I want you to do that right now, and you can pause the video here, and then we're going to start looking at the results of this investigation. Okay, so welcome back. I hope that you've paused the video and that you've gone and you've graphed each of these graphs or linear curves on Desmos. And let me show you how to do that. I take it you've done that already, right? So this is Desmos. You just simply go to desmos.com and you go to Start Graphing, and we go to the graphing calculator now. Okay, and as you can see, it's loading. Remember, what we want to be graphing is we want to be graphing y equals x, 2x, 3x, 5x, and 10x, right? I can add one more here. You can even do a equals a half. So that means you're going to graph y is equal to a half x. That's another one you can do. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this in here a little bit and drag that out a bit. Okay, so we're going to do the first graph, y equals 1 divided by 2x. Okay, and it looks like that. It's a red curve, y equals 1x, which is the same as y equals x. I'm going to draw the graph of y equals 2x, y equals 3x, and also the graph of y equals 5x, and then the graph of y equals 10x. Now I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about your observations and what do you notice here? What do you see? Well, we see many curves, right? We see many curves. So let me take 2 or 3 of them away. I'm going to take away 3x and maybe, yeah. So as you can see, this curve over here, the very first one, let's highlight that one over there. That's this red one. Do you see it? Okay, this red one represents the equation y equals a half x. And then I look at this one, and that's y equals 1x. And then I see this one equals 1 equals 2x. This one is y equals 5x, and this one happens to be 10x, right? Now my question to you is, what do you observe about these lines as the value changes here? As the value in front of x changes, what do you observe? Right? The coefficient of x in the equation of a straight line changes. And in our examples, it's going from a small number, like a half, right? That's a small number, to a very large number, a larger number over there. What is happening? You see this curve that's doing this, it's doing that. It's going more and more and more and more and more. It's getting steeper. Okay. One observation from somebody in the WhatsApp group, they've told us that that the line is going from a more horizontal position to a more vertical position. Okay. And then another one said that it's getting closer and closer to the y-axis. So those are important observations I want you to note. As we change the coefficient of x in the equation of a straight line, something changes. The line gets steeper. Okay? The line gets steeper. So let's graph another graph. This graph y equals 0x. Okay. Now the line y equals 0x, I'm going to switch this a half x off. You can see that this is it over here. I think it's like an orangey red or brown. That happens to be a completely horizontal line. This is the line y equals 0x, which is exactly the same as y equals 0. That happens to be a horizontal line. Okay, so people, this coefficient of x that we see over here in the standard form, y equals ax, the coefficient of x, the thing in front of x, right? It represents something very special in a straight line. And you can see what that will be shortly. You may also find in your textbooks it's represented by y equals mx, right? And that m is exactly the same as a, and they represent the same thing, and that's what we're going to be talking about shortly. Okay, this is actually called the gradient. Okay, the gradient is a measure of the steepness and how steep the graph is, especially in a straight line. So it was a horizontal curve. If we look over here, this one here has got 0 steepness. This one has a more steepness, even more, and even more. And now the question is, which one has the greatest steepness? Okay, obviously it's going to be this one over here, y equals 10x, right? Okay, so what can we say about the gradient? Well, the bigger the number, or the coefficient of x, the steeper that graph will be. Okay,